Thank you very much, Nash. And yes, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for this webinar on developing confidence in speaking. And this is particularly aimed at our AQA centres. There is another webinar on developing confidence in speaking for EdXL teachers, which is tomorrow. So just in case that applies to you, just to let you know that would be the one that you need to attend. But yes, just a short introduction to myself and then we'll get going because there's quite a lot of information to get through this afternoon. So I am one of the product managers working on the GCSE resources, and I've had responsibility for the German resources in particular, but I've been working very, very closely with my other two colleagues who are also on the call. So Jérôme Garnier, who has been leading on French, and Fiona Price, who has been leading on Spanish. And because we've been working so closely together, anything that I refer to today or show you in terms of examples from the textbooks or our surrounding resources, you can be assured that if it's in one language, it will be in the other two as well. So hopefully that will help and just gives you a bit of context there. So just moving forward then to today's aims. So at the end of the session today, hopefully you will have greater familiarity with the different speaking tasks within our resources, and also an understanding of how our resources can be used to prepare students for their speaking tests, so that end goal. And along with this, hopefully I will give you an insight into the different opportunities for increasing confidence and engagement in speaking that we have prepared for in our student book and also on the digital side of things. So first of all, I just wanted to reflect a little bit with regard to the speaking test experience. So I don't know about you, but whenever I used to tell anybody that I was a teacher, then they often used to say, oh, I couldn't do that. And then when I used to say that I taught languages, they would say, oh, that was my worst subject, or I really found that hard. And then quite often the conversation might turn to talking about that speaking test experience, because actually, I don't think it's something that anyone ever forgets, however close your work is to languages thereafter. I think people still remember those few minutes of their speaking test quite clearly. And why is that? Well, there's an awful lot of anxiety around it. It's a very high stakes exam. I think possibly with the exception of perhaps the music exams, the practice exams there, it's probably the exam where you are most exposed individually, that one-to-one situation. And wrapped up in all of that anxiety is this fear of the unknown, of what could come up. And of course, you get that preparation time where you see those cards and it really could be anything. And that can be quite frightening, quite anxiety-inducing for anyone, I think. And then linked to that, there's that unpredictability, which is sort of coupled with perhaps a bit of luck or bad luck, however you might see it. So, not knowing what topics are going to come up on those cards, on the photo card, is there one that you've really been dreading and suddenly it's there? I think, some students might come out of the exam thinking, oh, one of my friends was lucky that came up and I was unlucky that this came up. So I don't think you get that so much in other exams, perhaps. And then because of that pressure, that time pressure, there is just so much to think about in so little time. So you're trying to get the tasks covered, you're trying to make sure your tenses are good, you're trying to watch out for your grammatical structures and the accuracy around all of that. As well as getting in complex structures and, really throwing in that vocabulary that you want to impress the examiner with. And all of that within those sort of precious 12 minutes or so. So it really is a very, very high stakes experience. And I think equally all of these things we could reflect on from the teacher side of things as well. So certainly, as a teacher, there are some speaking exams that I will never forget conducting, for good reasons and some for not so good reasons, perhaps. And also, that pressure from the teaching side of, have I got the right cards for the right student? have I prepared all the questions? Have I got the most out of them? You're on the countdown through the questions and so on, to make sure that you've got everything you need within those few minutes from that student to show them at their best. So this exam, really high stakes, causes lots of anxiety. And therefore, when we were preparing our resources, it was one big thing that we really wanted to make sure that students were prepared really well to go into those final speaking exams, and to just try and reduce that anxiety as much as we could. So how have we done that? So if you've been in any of our webinars up until this point, you would have seen this slide in various guises, and we've really just given you a bit of an overview of the course structure, both the print and digital side of things here, and split it into what makes up our modules. So in terms of the cultural spread, the core content, the grammar practice, the exam practice, and so on. What is in our revision module, which you can see there, and then our speaking test pages that come right at the end of the book, which will be a focus for later on today, and also what is it that's in Active Hub. So today, the bits that I've put there in the sort of rectangles are the bits that I will be concentrating on in terms of our resources with this speaking in mind. So let's have a look then, first of all, what's in a core module in terms of the speaking. So what do we see there that really helps students practice these skills on an ongoing basis to increase their confidence? So obviously, there are some normal bread and butter practice conversations. So they will feed into lots of different parts of the speaking exam. But very often you will see a kind of question and answer type scenario, often modelled with a listening before it, but that opportunity for students to practice in their pairs or sometimes in groups, normal conversations. Then alongside that, there is lots and lots of pronunciation practice, so much more than the current courses, of course, because of the new focus on phonics. So lots and lots of different ways in which pronunciation is practiced, and I'll come to some of those a bit later. We'll also see photo descriptions, so both will have those as listening activities, so they will be listening to what they've heard and perhaps writing down what was or wasn't true about the description compared to the photo they see on the page, but also the actual speaking activity of describing the photo themselves and answering questions about it afterwards. Role play practice, of course. So with the AQA specification, there's a bit of overlap here with the normal practice conversations because the role plays are set in social situations, but there are very specific role play practice opportunities, which again, I'll show you later what they look like in the core module. Sometimes we have some speaking practice of grammatical structures too. So this might be within the core module itself, or it could be, I've also got their speaking tasks to practice grammar, which might be on the end of unit or end of module, sorry, pages too, which are focused purely on grammar. There are speaking games integrated into the resources as well, again, just to increase that sort of fun around it and take away the nerves a little bit. And some speaking skills worksheets, which are on Active Hub, which again, I'll show you later, but very much build on what is being practiced in the core. In terms of the exam practice, so how does that work? Well, at the end of our modules, we have these exam spreads, which give really guided practice through the exam style tasks. So there you will see, and again, we'll look at this later, but you will see, for example, a role play. You'll hear somebody doing that role play. There will be practice of that role play for students to listen to a teacher and then respond to each of the prompts. In our revision spreads, similarly, we'll have practice tasks there of all of the different speaking tasks that they need to do. And then our assessments, you'll see later that they've been really, really closely modelled on the real thing, on the SAMs. So you can be rest assured that when the students do their assessments, that they will be having a very realistic experience of what it looks like to do the real thing. And the speaking test section that I've referred to, so this comes right at the end of our books. And in there we have double page spreads on each of these three important parts of speaking. So we've got the role play, so we've got a double spread on role play. We've got a spread on phonics, which is obviously has kind of dual purpose there. So obviously really useful for the reading aloud, but equally useful for the dictation task too. And then we also have a spread on the photo task. So as you'll see later, these spreads really talk students through what's involved in the task and how to be successful in the task, and gives them a bit of practice as well. So let's start by looking at that role play then. So in the core modules, where does this feature? So as I said, there are some pair work activities, which might be the normal conversations. There are some actual practice role plays, but there are also these speaking confidence worksheets, which again take students through how to address that task type. Then in the speaking support pages, we've got the section on the role play task where it's modelled, there's practice task, but also there is another spread which is on conversation questions. So these cover all of the modules of the book, and they can be used for practice for the role plays, again, because these are in those sort of social situations. And then in the exam and revision spreads and the assessments, so firstly we'll see the modelled role plays with tips in the exam spreads, and again in the revision spreads, and in the assessments themselves we'll see those practice role plays. So let's have a look at some of them then. So first of all, here we've got the role plays as they are in the AQA SAMs. Okay, so there we've got an example of a German one. So the great thing about these, of course, is that they're now all in English. So actually, apart from the fact that it says you're talking to a German friend, then you probably wouldn't know, and it makes these nice and easy to use between different languages. But here we've got a higher one on the left and a foundation one on the right. And in terms of what I said about us really modelling what is in the book and what's in our assessments on the real thing, you'll see actually that the structure of these role plays, we've adhered really, really closely to this wherever possible. So, for example, with the higher one here, you'll see that always 3 of the prompts, you have to give 2 pieces of information. One of them, you give 1 piece of information, and there is a question to ask, which always comes at the end. So that's the higher one. And the foundation one is just different because they just give 1 piece of information. But we've really tried to keep to that structure so that students have that familiarity with the task type, and that there are no surprises when it comes to the real thing. So here is an example. So this is taken from our German book, and you can see the higher version on the left and the foundation on the right. And this is just to give you an idea of, again, how we've modelled these, how we've made sure that students are getting a realistic taster of what a role play is, but that they have a path to it so that it just doesn't come out of nowhere. They know what they're doing. So for the higher one, you can see there's a gap fill there, as there is for foundation, but obviously the complexity is different. So they've got a conversation, which is very similar to the role play that they will end up doing just below. So they've got the gap fill activity for listening, then they've got a reading task based on it, and then that leads them towards actually performing the role play in their pairs there. And again, if you look at those, you can see that we've followed that structure really carefully, really closely, sticking to the exam. Then coupled with this, we've got our speaking confidence worksheets. So these are a really, really great addition that will really help students just go through all the necessary steps towards completing their role plays successfully. So you can see this one here. So a French one, you've got some work around the vocabulary to begin with, and then a noughts and crosses game, and then actually looking at the structure of a role play and getting them to prepare it, and then finally them reflecting on it and thinking about how they did, always accompanied with these little tips. So these yellow sort of signature tips that we have everywhere throughout our resources to just remind students of some strategies, some vocabulary, some language that will help them. And then this is the spread that I've been talking about in the speaking test revision section, which comes at the end of the book. So you can see here, the first thing we've got is just an explanation of the task, which again, I think is quite useful for students, because quite often when they come just towards their speaking exam, and it doesn't matter how many times that you've told them and how many mocks they've been through, they still will be asking questions about how long is this and how many marks are there for that, and where do I choose a topic for this, and so on. So this speaking test revision section lays it all out for them. It gives them all of that information. And of course, it is tier specific, so it's different in the two different books. You can see just below that, we've got the themes and topics, and you can see where those are covered in the different modules. So again, really useful for students to just look back at that module and think about, okay, if my role play comes up and it's on this area, where do I find that vocabulary? Where is that language? Where are the practice conversations that I can use to help me prepare? Because, as I mentioned, the students will have to ask a question in the role play. We've got a box there just reminding them of question forms and familiar questions that might come up over and over again, and question words. And then an example role play here on the right, which is modelled, and students can have a go at that and do their own version, as well as some general tips on the role play itself. The exam spreads that come at the end of our modules, so if you're familiar with our resources already, you'll know that we have these exam spreads at the end of every module, and they begin with a listening and reading, sort of test preparation spread, and then we have the speaking one. And this is just an extract from one of the speaking ones on the role play. It's a French one, as you can see. And again, the way these are laid out, very true to the exam style, but with these really useful tips around them. So students will first of all just look at this card, think about all of the tips that are given to them, and then prepare what they would say. And they then have the opportunity to have a go, but also to listen to somebody doing that role play and using it as a bit of a listening activity as well, just noting down what the responses were for that particular candidate and what question they asked at the end. So that would then prepare them for doing the end of module assessment. And here I've just put just included here the assessment task that comes at the end of module 1 for German. And it's the higher tier one I've put in here, but you can see just looking at this again, how close this is to the real thing. So you can be sure that when students do their speaking test at the end of module 1 here, that they're already getting a very, very realistic experience of what that looks like and what that feels like, so that when they eventually come to do the real thing, they will have seen loads of these, and hopefully it won't feel too alien for them. And then in our revision module, so again, for those of you familiar with our resources, you'll know that towards the end of the book, we have one module that comes after module 8, which is dedicated to revision. And that really is best done towards the end of the course to remind students of that key vocab and language, the structures that have come up in all of the different modules. So there's a double spread per module. And this is just an example of one of the role plays that comes up in the Spanish revision module here. So again, very familiar format, a nice tip there just to remind them of how to approach the task And then again, they can have that practice and listen to the teacher performing the other part of the role play so that they can gain a realistic experience of it. So that was the role play. So now moving on to the reading aloud task. So let's have a look at this then. So where does this feature? So the reading aloud in the core modules, so we have lots of speaking activities which focus on key sounds. So we've been really thorough in making sure that all of the sounds are covered throughout the book and that we come back to them, we recycle them, we keep giving students lots and lots of practice of those sounds. There are little texts for them to read aloud, of course, in the core, and with follow-up questions. So we've included those, but again, the general conversation questions and those practice conversations are really good practice for the reading aloud follow-up questions. And again, speaking confidence sheets. I will show you one of those shortly. Then in terms of the phonics practice, so there are lots and lots of phonics boxes throughout the book, as I've mentioned. There's lots of opportunities to practice these sounds in fun ways. So sometimes it might just be single words, but sometimes there might be tongue twisters, or there might be different activities, which I'll show you later, where it does it in a bit more of a kind of gamified way. There are accompanying phonics PowerPoints, which if you're familiar with the Key Stage 3 versions of these, they very much kind of follow on from those. And I'll show you what one of those looks like shortly. But again, really, really thorough practice of the phonics there. And finally, in terms of that phonics practice, we have our phonics pages in the speaking support book, where I'll show you later, but it goes through each of those sounds, and that's supported by audio so that you can practice with the students, or the students can practice independently to perfect their pronunciation. In our exam revision spreads and our assessments, again, we've got short texts for students to read aloud, focusing on key sounds with follow-up questions, and again, very much modelled on the real thing. And here we have the real thing. So this is, again, from the AQA SAMs. So you can see the higher on the left and the foundation on the right. So this is a French one. And then what does our practice look like then within the core modules? So in terms of this phonics practice, this practice of key sounds, here are a couple of examples of how we've done that. So first of all, the one on the top left is a Spanish one, so a really nice, fun activity with vocabulary that isn't actually on the vocabulary list, not all of it, so that students really have to concentrate on the sounds. They're looking at some unfamiliar words there and having to work out how those sounds should go if they follow the rules carefully. And then the French one underneath is a tongue twister. So you can see concentrating on those sounds, the sort of O-I sound there and the O-Y sound, and just practicing it and seeing how fast that they can do it. Again, hopefully just giving them a bit of a fun activity to get those sounds correct. So, and here sometimes we have integrated our practice of those sound symbol correspondences into an existing task. So here you can see we've got a reading comprehension task, but we have made sure that we've got lots of these IG sounds in a couple of the texts there. And so that when they have listened to the phonics box that goes with this, and they've done the PowerPoints that go with it in terms of the phonics preparation, they can then have a go at reading those short texts themselves. So you can see that IG sound in wenig, regelmäßig, wichtig, schwierig, langweilig, it's all over the place. So they can have a go and see how accurately they can produce that sound. So here is an example of a phonics PowerPoint. So I've been talking about these before, but you can see just how thoroughly these PowerPoints allow students to practice the key sounds. So here, this is sort of bringing together a few sounds. We've got the first slide, hopefully you can see, is just practicing the silent E at the end of a word. So making sure that students we don't hear that when they are saying those words out loud. So that's a listen and repeat activity. And then we've got a similar one in the next slide, which is concentrating on the silent final consonants. And the third slide then looks at a bit of an example in terms of the word for the internet, and then again some more repetition before they go on to bringing them all together in a noughts and crosses game in the fourth slide there. And again, you can see that's accompanied by audio, so they can listen, they can make sure that they've got it correct before they award whether they've got the nought or the cross in the right place. And then finally, that final slide there is an activity that really helps them to practice for the exam task itself. So lots of practice there of the silent E, the silent consonants, and the exceptions. So a really, really thorough series of activities to practice those sounds. And similarly here, this speaking confidence worksheet, so again, this is from the same unit, helping students to prepare for that read aloud task, but you can see how systematically the activities build up towards the reading aloud task at the end there, taking them through, again, just practicing individual words. There's a nice crossword activity there, and just building up to that reading aloud activity. And again, a bit of self-reflection at the end there, thinking about what have they done well, what do they need to focus on. So with all that in mind, then going back into the book, here we've got a reading aloud activity, which again focuses on those sounds. So if you've gone through all of the phonics PowerPoint, the speaking confidence worksheets and everything else, and then they come to this, and if they're still saying those silent letters by the time we get here, then we might have a problem. But I think, you know, it really does help them focus on those sounds, and hopefully will give them confidence that they know which sounds they need to pronounce, which ones they don't. In our speaking test revision section at the back, I talked about this double page earlier. So here we've got the French version, but all three languages very, very similar. And you can see that here we've brought together all of the sounds that are on the spec. We have isolated those sounds so that they can listen to the sound on its own. They can then listen to individual words. It tells them also where to find the phonics resources in the book that are based on those sound symbol correspondences. And then we have some sentences for students to practice as well. So all of this has been recorded, which means that it can, of course, be used in lesson time, but it could be something that you refer students to if they're really struggling with one or two particular sounds, if they really are still saying those final consonants, if you're hearing them in class, and you just say to them, look, just go away, just listen to this bit of the phonics page, just really practice, and hopefully that will give them the opportunity to develop their skills in that area. And of course, the reading aloud task is followed up by some questions, and this is our conversation page, which is part of the speaking test revision section. And there you can see, obviously, we've got a series of questions on each of the modules, clearly indicating which themes they come from, so students could practice those as well, which will help them with both the reading aloud, but also the photo task, which I'll come to shortly. And then back into the main part of the book, the exam spread. So this is what a reading aloud task might look like there. So you can see this is a German one. It's bringing together a range of sounds which have been covered in the module and are now in that purple box there. And then these have been underlined in the text so that students really focus on those sounds. And that might be something that they need to get into the practice of, just really looking at a text and zooming in on certain sounds that they might find tricky. So those are underlined for them there. And again, as it says, they can practice with a partner reading them aloud, but then they can listen and check their pronunciation. So we have recorded these as well. Or it might be something where you perhaps play a sentence to them and then they practice in their pairs, and then you do the next sentence and they practice that way round. In terms of the follow-up questions underneath, you'll see in exercise 5, there's a listening associated with this where they have that conversation with those 4 follow-up questions. But the students are being challenged here to think about, okay, what could the questions be? Here are the question starters, what might they be? And then how would you answer them? Again, with a tip box there, just to support them with structuring their responses. And here is our reading aloud assessment task. So one of them from a Spanish module here. And again, just looking at it, you can see how closely it's been modelled on the real thing. So again, when they get to this point and they get to the end of the module and they're ready to do the assessment task, they will be getting a really good experience of what it feels like to do that task in the real thing. And here in our revision module, which again comes towards the end of the book, very similar to how we've dealt with these tasks in the exam module, but you'll see again, sounds are underlined. There are some tick boxes, just drawing out some of those sounds and just giving a bit more of a reminder about how those sounds or what students need to watch out for with those sounds, and then some follow-up questions as well. So again, really, really good practice. And this brings us on to the photo task, so the 3rd task in the exam. So again, I'm not going to go through all of that this time because we've been through it with the other 2 tasks, but as you can see, very similar approach to how they appear in the core modules, in the speaking support section I'll show you shortly, and in the exam and revision spreads, as well as in the assessments. So here is a photo task at both higher and foundation level from the SAMs. And again, you'll see as we go through that we've taken a very, very similar approach to these so that students get good preparation. So in our core module, so well, what might that look like? So we've kind of launched the picture task, the photo task in the books with in different ways, but sometimes with descriptions, as you can see here on the left in Spanish. So written descriptions that they listen to, then a comprehension task based on that, and then them having a go at describing a photo and answering specific questions around that. You can see really importantly for the Spanish ones that there is the grammatical point of the present continuous, which is going to be really important for them to be able to say what's happening in the photo. And then a similar version, but in French this time on the right-hand side, you can see again just some guidance as to how they might structure their descriptions, and there's one to listen to, and then they can have a go at writing one and then actually practicing in pairs. So there's a big launch point in all 3 books for the photo task so that the students really get off on the right foot with it. So here's a speaking confidence worksheet, this time on the photo card task. And again, really structured progression through this, going through sort of breaking down the task, making sure they've got the key vocabulary, the key structures to talk about what's happening in the photo, where things are, who is there, and so on. There's a picture there for them to just, where we've got some accurate sentences on the left-hand side, but not all of them relate to that photo. So again, that just gives them a bit of a model to play with. Got another noughts and crosses activity there, and then finally the picture task itself. So some guided questions so that they can give a really full description of both of those pictures there. And then in terms of the follow-up questions, so we spoke about this before, how are they practiced in the core module? So it might be as part of just normal conversations. So you can see here that there's a gap fill conversation, a little bit similar to the German role play we looked at earlier, where students will listen to a conversation, fill in the blanks, and then they get a go at doing it themselves. So that could be quite good practice for some of the questions that might come up as follow-up questions after the photo card description. And then, as I said before, these conversation questions at the end of the book will prepare students for those follow-up questions as well, just in a similar way to how they might for the reading aloud task. On the exam spreads here, you can see, again, the task is very, very similar to the real thing. But again, we've got that really guided practice through looking at the card, listening to a description that has been prepared of both photos, and then having a go at it themselves, and then listening to some follow-up questions, and again, doing a range of activities on those before they actually do their own preparation of follow-up questions. In the speaking test revision section at the back, here's our double page on the photo card. So again, we've got that exam information at the top. So just spelling out for students exactly what is this task, what do they need to do, how long does it last, and so on. And then some key language boxes to just bring together the structures that will really help them to describe the photos. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that we've put some photos there in black and white to mirror what will be on the exam paper for them to have a go at, and then to go on to the unprepared conversation, the follow-up questions after those, and to have a go again at answering questions on the theme. And then here is our assessment task associated with this. Now, these will actually be in black and white to reflect what students will see in the exam. But you can see, again, they have followed the structure of the real thing, and you can see on the right-hand side the teacher's notes, what that looks like, and the kind of topics that might come up in those follow-up questions afterwards. And here's our revision spread task. So again, right at the end of all of the modules in the revision section there, we have, again, a sample task and some follow-up questions there, so that, again, students can just get that. There's just so much practice in the book, but just, again, a bit more practice before they do their speaking exams of that style of task. So I've talked a lot about the exam and the support that's offered within the book and in surrounding resources. But of course, we don't want to just think about preparing students to do the exam. We want them to be confident speakers, and we want them to enjoy the process, to have fun in their speaking, so that hopefully will take away some of those nerves in terms of that when they actually have to face those final few minutes. So I just thought I'd bring together some of the nice activities that we've got in the books that are not perhaps necessarily exam-based tasks, but we'll just do that. We'll get students talking, we'll get them having a bit of fun and developing their confidence. So here we've got some grammar games, so a range of different games here. We've got a dice game to just practice using the possessive adjectives with nouns, as you can see in French there. The one in green at the top is from our German books. It's quite a difficult, a challenging grammatical structure there, but being dealt with in a fun way. It's a speaking activity, noughts and crosses. Will hopefully get them to say those grammatical structures over and over again to increase their confidence there. We've got a verb wheel towards the bottom left there for Spanish for students to practice with. And then we've got a Guess Who activity in French. So hopefully they will enjoy those. And then we've got lots and lots of other vocab and grammar practice activities. So I've just drawn a couple here together. Actually, these are both French, but you can see there's a bit of ping pong kind of revision here of advantages and disadvantages of different types of transport. So again, just getting them to really keep practicing that key vocabulary, and that bit of competition hopefully helps them to enjoy the process. And then the one at the bottom there, so we've got comparatives tennis here. So they're having to think about, there's a grammatical point there, they're also having to think about the genders of the nouns, and make sure, and they're trying to sort of argue with each other, I suppose, in that activity. So hopefully that will go down well too. Lots of trapdoors here, you can see in all of the different languages, so all slightly styled differently, but you can see, again, this is something that students really love doing, I think, and just gives them that repetitive practice of, you know, when they haven't guessed the right option, they've got to go all the way back to the beginning, and they have to just say all of those sentences again. That really helps to develop the confidence, hopefully. And you can see the bottom right one has also got a phonics box attached to it, so lots of different S sounds in there for them to focus on. And here we've got just drawn out some nice activities from the different languages again. So this one at the top there in French, so some parents have missed parents' evening, and they've got to take it in turns to play the role of the teacher and record or read out a voicemail. So that's quite a nice activity again, which I think they'll probably enjoy doing. And then underneath it in blue, this is the kind of mastermind game. So where students write a sentence down in secret, which has one element from each box, and then the other one, their partner has to guess what their sentence is, but they can only be told that they've got a certain number of parts of it right. They can't be told which part. So again, they just have to keep doing it a bit like the trapdoor until they finally guess the correct sentence. And again, that one there is very much practicing the modal, so wollen, and the conditional form of mögen, so möchten. So they're practicing that grammar point along the way. And then in Spanish there, again, really lovely little activity there with the cartoon. So choose one person from exercise 1, read out the problem to your partner, and your partner then chooses 2 pieces of advice to give you using exercise 2 for help. So that's a nice little activity for them to be practicing what somebody should or could do. So these were our aims for today. So hopefully you've now got some greater familiarity with the different speaking tasks within our resources, and understand how our resources can be used all together, sort of in synergy with one another, to prepare students for their speaking tests. And also, hopefully, you've got a bit of an insight into some of the different opportunities for increasing confidence, for giving students a bit of fun along the way. So that kind of brings us to the end of this session. You'll be aware that we have been running a series of webinars. So the QR code there at the bottom from our team just shows you the list of the webinars that we have run, and those will be appearing on our YouTube channel. And then above that, we have a QR code which takes you to our qualifications team webinars, which are obviously, if you're an AQA school, you may not need that, but if you are still deciding between the two, you might want to attend one of those. In fact, we'd strongly encourage you to do so. So that brings us to the end there. So I don't know whether there have been any questions coming up in the Q&A. Perhaps I'll hand over to my colleagues on the call. So Jérôme or Fiona, is there anything that you think we need to draw out to the Q&A there?
Yeah, not loads of questions. The only thing I would say is somebody's asked about getting onto Active Hub because they've not got access yet. So I just say, anyone else on the call, if you haven't managed to go onto Active Hub, I think Jérôme will, when we get a chance, either Jérôme or I are going to put in the chat the email. So there's an email which is digital.orders@pearson.com. So digital.orders, all lowercase, @pearson.com. So that's the email to contact, and we're going to put another one in the chat just if there's any queries about like subscriptions for Active Hub, that there's another sales team email, which is a really useful one. So that was the only other one. And then we had a question about just getting the resources, and it was just to make it clear that if you click on event materials at the bottom, you'll be able to download the PowerPoints there, and you'll be sent the recording as well. And that's, I think, all. I'm just going to double check. Oh, a question: are the speaking confidence worksheets in the book or on Active Hub? So they're on Active Hub. They're a downloadable resource. You'll see those in the list of all of the alongside. Oh, actually, no, they're with other resources, aren't they? So, yes, when you go into Active Hub, you'll see resources on the left, which is all the audio files and everything that's on that ebook page in order. And then next to it, there's a link called Other Resources, and that's where the Speaking Confidence worksheets are, with the sentence builder grids as well. That's right, isn't it, Kate? I think I've got that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so do have an explore of those. So the migration process is obviously happening now to get people over to Active Hub. So gradually you should be able to access the different languages they'll be coming on board, and again, gradually you'll see the resources being loaded there. But do have a play with that, and I think Jerome has now put the email address into the chat. So
yeah, Jerome's done that now.
Queries, please do contact the email there, and hopefully somebody will be able to help you.
And I think are we going to put that website link as well, Jerome, for the yeah, we've got there's a link to just give you updates on when everything's going to be on Active Hub. So we can put that website link on for you as well, because that's all been published now, so you can see what's coming when. I think, yeah, brilliant. Jerome's done that as well. So those are kind of the three main points of contact there. And obviously just keep an eye on Secondary MFL Matters and the other Facebook groups, and on LinkedIn, because we do post updates there. And the other thing I was going to say, Kate, is maybe relevant for people to know that AQA Hire, all languages are published now. So Spanish, German and French for hire are all available to buy. And there's a 35% discount until the end of September. So that's worth having a look at. And Foundation's coming in August. So that was just that update. And I think that was probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see any more open questions. So I'll keep the call open for another few minutes, just in case anybody thinks of anything. But thank you very much for joining us today, and good luck with everything. I hope the rest of the term goes well, and yeah, do feel free to drop us or the relevant team a line if you want to discuss anything further. But yes, best wishes and many thanks for your attendance today.